evening. Tonight we want to talk about the relationship between the book of Ecclesiastes and purpose. More than a few times I've heard since I've been a Christian. I was toting it up the other day. This year would be 35 years I've been saved. And I've heard a lot of Christians as I've studied the Word who have made the remark that Ecclesiastes is such a depressing book. You know, it says nothing's going to go right. I mean, everything's horrible, and whatever, however you want to look at it. And many Christians believe that Ecclesiastes is indeed a very negative book. But if you really understand what it's talking about, and Chilton and I were discussing a little earlier, as parentheses here, we were at the prayer time last night, and he briefly mentioned the topic of sin in his testimony. And we were talking tonight that people when the word sin is mentioned, Christians tend to think of it, I did the wrong thing. If I didn't screw up, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, it's all about action or doing something. They're doing something wrong, which is actually the completely wrong way to look at it. What the word sin means to miss the mark, to come out of agreement with God. And the way we should look at sin is our lives should be filled with Jesus. Our lives should be filled with Jesus. So it's more than just doing the wrong thing and all that. It's drifting from God. And if you think about it, virtually everybody that I'm looking at right now in this room, I'm confident is saved, but we're not perfect people. And so we drift. And that's when we get into trouble, when we start drifting. So the point about it is that, like I talked about last week, the investment in Jesus, the intentional investment, means all of us, all 100% of us, or we should attempt to get to that point. So we look at what Ecclesiastes says, and when we talks about all the negative things that it mentions, what it's really conveying to us is nothing here really matters. Nothing here really matters except the people that you influence. Leaving a legacy of influenced people is the object. Walking the road is the object. Because it's through that constant walk with Him that you will influence. I have the gift of teaching, so therefore I'm influencing you, hopefully, as I'm up here. So for better or worse, you get to listen to me. Thank you. Ecclesiastes teaches us that what matters is spiritual and eternal, not the natural. It says everything is meaningless. It uses the same phrase, under the wind and under the sun and a chasing after the wind. And to quote Ecclesiastes, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Laughter, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure accomplish? Because as it points out, whatever you do here, other than the influenced people that you have, that you come across, it's all going to go away. It's all going to go away. I can think of the primary example that comes to mind for me is Jerry Falwell in building Liberty University, as God empowered him to do. He built up something very special, which continues to this day. But it has fallen into different hands. and it has gone in different directions. I don't know how close it would be now if you could talk to Jerry and ask, what do you see in liberty now? I would guarantee he would say, it's not really what I envisioned. Some of the things, yes. Some of the things, yes. But some of the things, no. And certainly some of the things that have happened at Liberty have not fit in with his definition of his vision. So if you're not familiar with a website called gotquestions.org, I urge that you do so. Candace is shaking her head. Awesome website. I got to tell you, I came across another one which I'll have to tell you about. The language of Ecclesiastes, I'm going to read some of this. Ecclesiastes emphasizes the temporary nature of worldly things. In the end, even the most impressive human achievements will be left behind. When the teacher refers to all the things under the sun, he's talking about earthly, temporary human things. The first 7 chapters describe all the worldly things under the sun that the teacher tried to find fulfillment in. He found that it was all meaningless, a temporary diversion that without God, it had no ultimate purpose or longevity. Chapters 8 through 12 of Ecclesiastes describe the teacher's suggestion and comments how a life should be lived. He comes to the conclusion that without God, there's no truth or meaning to life. Truth or meaning are, what's the word I want to use? They're beyond us. There's something about them that they inhabit us that we recognize. But in the end, they're the only things that matter. Truth and meaning. He has seen many evils and realized that even the best of man's achievements are worth nothing in the long run. Worth nothing. Page 2. Now, I went to the doctor several weeks ago, and they had taken a couple of blood tests, and he was looking at my numbers. And when they give you a blood test, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, and if you've ever seen the reports, the blood is one of the most amazing things there is. There is so much that they can tell about you just by analyzing the blood. And he asked me, he said, given everything I've gone through, he said, you truly are a walking, talking miracle. And he said, what do you attribute this to? And I said, Jesus and purpose. That's it. That's what matters. Jesus and purpose. Purpose is necessary to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. We are here to fulfill God's person, not ours. God owns you. He has a mission for you. And a lot of times, a lot of people that I know, especially in my therapy practice, life doesn't really have meaning. And so therefore they drift because they don't know where they're headed. And if you don't know where you're headed, you're going to get there real fast. Or conversely, you will never get there at all. So you need to understand what your purpose is in Jesus on this planet. Here's some verses for you. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose, not ours. Henry Thoreau said on Walden Pond, most people live a life of quiet desperation. They live life one day at a time, and basically we've all seen the bumper stickers where it says, he who dies with the most toys win. Well, what happens to the toys when you die? Exactly. Or they wind up in a garage sale, okay? And things that you thought were so valuable, it's $1 at a garage sale, if at all. So without meaning and purpose, life is nothing more than existing. Nothing more than existing. So where do we find purpose at besides what God gives us here? Purpose comes from several areas, but it's all rooted in the intangibles of purpose itself. Purpose is an intangible that you can't wrap your mental hands around it, but you know it and you feel it. Purpose is manifested in work. Work has its own intrinsic value. Just the act of doing something. When I was in the hospital and Kathy was dealing with the things that she looked at me at one time and she says, "What do I do, counselor? Tell me what to do." And I said 3 words: activity, activity, activity. There's inherent satisfaction in doing something that you feel is worthwhile or recreational to help you pass the time. Speaking of helping you pass the time, I had read a book by a French priest by a guy of Henri Nouwen. I don't know if you've heard of him. And he talks about the difference between silence and solitude. Now, this is pretty profound if you understand what he's talking about. Take a 15-minute segment of time and just sit there. Don't do anything. Just sit there for 15 minutes and kind of observe yourself as to what happens during that 15 minutes. And then ask yourself this question: was that silence or was that solitude? They're the exact same thing. But the difference between the way you define it, the context you put it in, silence, he writes in his book, silence, people feel like they got to fill up time. We got to have something going on. And there's legit reasons for that. But he said, by and large, we don't like it. We'll pick out something, something we got to do because we got to fill up that time. Or you can say it's solitude in which you just enjoy the passage of time as you meditate on something. Or you think through a problem or something that you've had. I bet Candace would give anything to have solitude in her house. I know that when you have young kids, we have been there. Purpose is manifested in service. The intangible of serving people just because cannot be matched. If you can think of the true reason of why you're doing something, it'll transform your life. I mean, you can look at the Redemption Center as just, well, we're collecting all this stuff, and it's a pain to put it away and all that, keep track of it and, disperse it and all that. Or you can say, what I'm doing is going to help somebody out. And that's the way they look at it, and they take great joy in that. Is it not to share your food with the hungry, or to provide the poor wanderer with shelter, and you see the naked to clothe them, not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? And see what happens when true service is invested and blessed before God. Your light will break forth like the dawn, your healing will quickly appear, your righteousness will go before you, the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. You will call, the Lord will answer. You'll cry for help, and he will say, here am I. It's been blessed by God, and He will fill it. And there's that intangible, that satisfaction that you're doing something that's worthwhile, that's going to change somebody's life because you have the stuff they need. Listen to the Redemption Center, which is the obvious example in our church, where they're constantly talking about somebody asked for something. I didn't think we had it. We prayed for it, and it showed up. Wow. Incidentally, you got a microwave down there? Okay. All right. We need a microwave. All right, back at it. Isaiah 58, 11 through 12. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings. See, when you do it to God's glory, that's a blessing. And you sow a blessing, it's going to return to you. You don't know how, but it's going to return to you. God's awesome, is He not? Purpose is manifested in your calling, 2 Peter 1, 3 and 10. His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of Him who called us by His own glory and goodness. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, make every effort to confirm your calling. When you walk in His calling and you bless it unto the Lord, whatever you sincerely bless, He's going to make it grow. He's going to return it. It's an investment. It's an investment with a guaranteed return. And we don't understand how it works or why it works. The law of sowing and reaping. Whatever you sow, that ye shall reap, and you'll reap more than you sowed. Jeremiah 6:16. This is what the Lord says. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your soul. You find that calling, you'll have rest for your soul. Purpose is manifested in giving, whether it be service, whether it be money, whether it be a gift you give or what have you. Any blessed investment in the kingdom will always be multiplied and always be a return, and it will always be more than what you put in. That's how God works. And purpose is manifested in service, like we've been discussing. We were called to serve. We were called to serve. Do what you can, when you can, with what you got. I mean, there's several examples in the Bible. Loaves and fishes. Little boy comes up, he's got loaves and fishes. And God multiplies it. That's what happened at the food bank. I don't ever hear it. I think we've run out of food maybe a couple of times at the food bank. I haven't worked there in a while. But, I mean, Tina would come up to me and say, look, I think we're going to run out. And I would just say, no, we're not. Not since you've been there? Amen. Praise the Lord. Page 4. Purpose is manifested in leaving a legacy of changed people. We influence, we evangelize, and we disciple. And you leave changed people. You leave changed people. 100 years from now, no one will remember you. I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing I kind of miss, not that I've ever done it, but Kathy used to do this, and I know other people, typically women, do this. We used to keep scrapbooks. Now I know you can keep them online now. It's not the same. That's right, Candy, because you can't hold it. You can't hold it, and there's some sort of satisfaction about turning the pages, right? And when you turn the pages, you can pick out that photograph or that little memento. Okay? There's something extraordinarily special about that. There's something extraordinarily special about holding on to the object as opposed to just looking at it. But 100 years from now, no one will remember you. When we had a scrapbook, if people kept them up, or they just kept them every so often, people would pull them out and they'll look at them. And the memories come flooding back. Okay? We don't tend to do that as much as when it's online. Like Candy says, it doesn't have the same feel. So the question you got to ask yourself is, will you leave a legacy of change that influence people? Are people changed simply because they know you? Are people influenced simply by the force of your personality? Just by you being who you are? This is not something you have to become a great public speaker or anything like that. When people have to go on trial, and I had to do this once. Well, that thing I went to for when we left Delaware. Um, I was a star witness in a procedure. I won't go into details. I was a star witness in a procedure, and they asked me a whole bunch of questions. All that was required of me was to tell what I know. That's all I had to do. Now there was a lot that room. It was a fairly contentious thing, but in the end, all I had to do was just tell what I know. And you just have to tell what you know, and just be what you know. Be what the word says you are, and you'll influence people. Because God, it's not you that's influencing, it's God flowing through you that changes people. Purpose is manifested in bearing fruit for the kingdom via our spiritual gifts. And it's going to be measured in the people that you influence. The closer you get to your gifts, the closer you get to your calling, the more people you're going to influence. Why? Because God's going to bless that and work through you. Purpose is manifested in making disciples. Honoring the Great Commission could be one of the few times whereby you planted the seed for growth in that person, or you mentored them over time. Now, mentoring somebody can be as simple, it can be as formal as meeting with somebody once a week. It can also be as simple as answering a couple of questions every so often. It's not a great big deal. Oh man, I got to disciple somebody. No, it's not like that. If you happen to be in an accountability relationship with somebody and you've managed to disciple them, that's awesome. You've done a great thing. You've also done a great thing if you can answer their questions. You've done a great thing if you say, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll find it out. So you go find out the answer to whatever their question might be. Fundamentally, think about how you came to know Christ. And this gets into what Chilton and I were talking about earlier, about making Jesus your life. Making Jesus your life. Did you merely add Jesus to your life? Well, okay, he's like on my hip, I'm going to add him. I walk with him hand in hand. And there is something to be said to that. Or did you truly submit to him? Now, you may not know what that means, but over time you will if you pursue him. If you pursue him. But the sad truth is, most people just add Jesus to their lives. They don't truly submit. Jesus becomes somebody who walks alongside of them, but there's no true submission. Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. The more you pursue him, the more you relate to him, just talking to him, just praying to him, reading his word, absorbing information on Wednesday nights, Sunday nights, Sundays mornings, and talking to people, you're going to grow because you are investing in him. And it's intentional, like I talked about last week. It's the intentional investment. Jesus said, I am the way of life. I am the truth of life. And I am your life. Jesus is your life. Walk with him. Talk with him. Seek him. Do we have any questions?